Jay, Cody Ironworks. Let's talk about knives and sharpening knives. In the upcoming apocalypse, you're not going to be able to pack your $2,000 buffer and grinder, not that everybody has one, for sharpening knives. You're going to need something that's a little more handy to carry. And we're going to talk about some options here. So, when I was a kid, my dad had a pair of Shaps, and he carried one of these marbles, hockey pucks is what we called it, in a Shap pocket. They've got a coarse side and they've got a fine side. Well, I think traditionally they were probably used for sharpening axes, and it works fairly good for that, especially if you've got some place where you can get your fingers down out of the way of the, because it's fairly easy to cut yourself with one of those. That's a fairly handy tool. You need to wash them. They need to be washed off. You need to clean them out because they get full of the grit from the whatever you're sharpening. So that works fairly good. Here's kind of an interesting tool that isn't really part of a sharpener. This is called an eraser. You can order these online, and I'm not a fan of stainless steel knives, so everything I carry, it's going to get stained up because that's the nature of carbon steel. And so this little thing, it actually works like an eraser, and it will take those, it's just abrasive enough to take off the rust spots and the staining on a knife blade. I'm sure you can get them on eBay or Amazon, I'm sure. Okay, so if you're using something really hard, like an old style buck knife or something that's got a real hardness to it, above most knives, you're going to have to use a diamond stone. Because if you don't use a diamond stone, you're going to have a tough time sharpening a super hard knife. So this is diamond impregnated. It's got a nice handle on it. This one's actually what they call an easy lap. I've had several. You can run that around there like that, and that works fairly good. You can also wash those out. That works really good. If you get a lot more longevity out of them. Now, there's a lot of ways to test if a knife is sharp. This triggers me. I see these guys and they run their finger down the knife like that. Yeah, on a sharp knife, you're going to cut yourself every time, especially if you're not all calloused up like me. I generally test this way against the knife blade for a feather, and if that makes you nervous, you can test against your fingernail like that. If it bites, you know that you're fairly sharp. But of course you got to be careful, and you're going to bleed yourself. It's just, if you sharpen enough knives, you're going to cut yourself. So, be prepared. This is a really handy tool, especially for fishing and stuff like that, because it's got a round, and then it's got this little groove in the middle of it that apparently is good for sharpening fish hooks. Now, I've never sharpened a fish hook, but apparently that's what that's for. It's got a round and a flat, and they work really good for serrated edge knives. So you can get this in here, and you can, if you're careful, you can get this in here, and you can adjust this so it fits right into the shape of the serration, and you can go in there and just very lightly, and then you can use the flat side to sharpen your standard edge. Okay, so my favorite one to carry is this. I find this is my everyday carry knife sharpener, and this is the one that I carry every day when I'm away from the shop and I'm sharpening knives and stuff. Now, the great thing about this is you can sharpen anything with this. This is a piece of carbide, and it's brazed onto this piece of steel. It's got this little carrier on it. And how this works is, and how I do this is, I actually, because most of my knives are fairly sharp already, I pull this along the blade, drag it along the blade, and that removes that feather that you get. Okay, now And it works. You can use it on them on axes too. Get your angle right. Get your angle right and drag that around. Is it as efficient as other methods? No. But in a pinch, you can use it for that. I've actually even used this to sharpen shovels with. When you get a shovel, it gets a folded over edge because it will peel the edge right off of a piece of steel. I'll try to show you. I might have this right here. So here's just a piece of, this is just a piece of mild steel. You can actually knock that edge of that steel right down with that. So this is the one that I carry for touching up knives. On some things it works better, on some things than others. This is kind of a wacky chisel that I carried when I was doing a lot of carpentering work. Hard to sharpen with something like that. You almost have to use a stone for something like that. But in a pinch, any of these tools in your Forging for the Apocalypse kit would be a handy thing to have. This one's going back in my pocket. Thanks everybody. Get it hot and hit it always where you're safe. If you like the content, please like and subscribe to the channel.